I've decided to kind of alter my tips to talk about what the queens talk about their technique and kind of analyze what they're doing according to these 5 tips that I have based my program on. So you can see, let me put it down so you can see the shirt there. So anyway, I was truly blessed by, I mean, what they were able to do and how they're able to still sing. Who I'm talking about? I'm talking about Patti LaBelle and Gladys Knight. The versus battle last night. Come on in, Shonda. So watching them and hearing how, of course, that was the biggest talk. That was the talk of everyone, how they're still able to sound so good in their 70s. And that's always, I've also studied with George Shirley, and he's still singing into he might be in his 80s now. And looking at these singers that we have admired of I won't say of old, of yesteryear, and how they've been able to manage their voices and preserve their voices. So with my method, or with my tips, I want to talk about the 5 S's that I think all vocal technique draws back to. And I want to talk about how I think and how I've analyzed how Patti and Gladys and these singers who have preserved their voices so well do it according to these S's. So my first S for, we're just gonna hold this. Okay, so my first S is support, of course, but it's instead of just diaphragm, and where's the camera? There we go. I'm also talking about mental support. So if you kind of notice with how they talk to each other, they had really great positive attitudes, but they also knew their voices. They knew what their voices needed. They had a confidence that I saw was built over time, over years. And yes, they've been in the business a long time, but I started to think about, I know there have been times where they didn't feel in the mood, they didn't feel up to the task. And I just started to think, what was their mental regimen? What did they tell themselves mentally to keep them in the game so long, to keep them, thriving and keep their voices healthy and their performance so lively. So that mental support, what do we tell ourselves? Do we say, now we also heard Gladys say, the older you get, the lower the voice gets. And then Patti might have said, oh, I don't know if that note is coming out today. We still have those things that we tell ourselves that can over time kind of get in the way of our vocal progress. But I just imagine that they have wonderful attitudes. They know themselves, they know what their voice needs, and they were always saying positive things to each other. So I think that mental support with that positivity, is very important. And then the other part of support I talk about is the body support. And I don't know about you, but at their age, I mean, they were moving with such flexibility, and to me, it was obvious that they took care of their bodies. If they, they might not work out all the time, but I could tell that they do some type of physical activity that helps to keep their temples strong and keep their bodies as flexible as they can be as they get older. So that's something that I'm really working on in myself, is paying more attention to, my physical health as well, and how it translates into my vocal health. Because, if the body is tired, and it's going to translate into my singing. If I'm emotionally drained, if all these things kind of start to play into how I'm able to produce my sound and how I'm able to sustain my sound. Because when you're having to do that night after night after night, that's a wear and tear on your body. So how we're taking care of our bodies on a regular basis is going to translate into how well we produce our voices and how well we produce our singing on a regular basis as well. And then, of course, the breath support. I love how Patty, she can kind of coast up there, but I can tell that she is just applying the right amount of breath she needs to kind of do this her falsetto, her falsetto belt or mixed belt. um and then Gladys, she was able to sit up. Now you notice they were sitting on the edge of their chairs for most of the time, especially when they were singing. So being able to access, I can tell that they know where their breath needs to be. They might not be able to explain it. I don't know. I hope for the day to be able to have this conversation with them. They may not be able to explain diaphragm, lungs, all that stuff, but I believe strongly. My son is trying to get in here. Sorry, y'all. I believe strongly that they know exactly the kind of breath support that they need for the songs that they put out. Okay. So the second S is strength. Y'all see that? Yes, good. So that strength and knowing where their power comes from. When Gladys had to go up for a high note, when she had to go up for a high, you saw her stand up. I don't know how many of you all were watching. So when she had to go up, homegirl, she stood right on up. And, Patty stood up kind of most of the time, especially because most of her songs are high. But that power from that lower region is difficult, I think, especially when you're singing other styles, to access that power of the voice, the belt, and that full sound without accessing that low abdominal muscle. And I think instinctively they know I need to stand up so I can get my full body behind this sound. And then when they were in a more comfortable range, they were kind of chilling off to the side. But yeah, when they really got into it, and when the range of their songs was higher than a regular range, they stood up. So that's knowing that they needed to access that strength from below instead of from their chest or from their throats. I didn't see any veins popping out of their necks. But again, if you're going to be able to sing night after night, week after week, Gladys had a Vegas, show, a Vegas residency. So what do you need to have in place to be able to produce this over and over and over again, and well into your 70s? So going from support to strength. And the third S, I'm going to combine the other two because space and smile. Now, you all know the Patty face, right? She's going to have space. Her cheekbones are going to be up, and that jaw will be as low as she can get it to get the sound out. And I noticed the same thing, of course, with Gladys, but all the time, they always had that smile. It's like their cheekbones were stapled up. They always had that smile. They always had that lift. And again, they may not know this increases range or this increases resonance, but they know what they feel. I believe that strongly, that they know exactly what they need to feel to be able to put the power of the mood of the song, the high notes, the low notes, all of that together through the space in their mouths and the smile, the lift in their cheekbones. So we've got support, strength, space, smile, and last is submit. That was a little crooked. But with submit, again, knowing their voices, knowing, let me pull up because I forgot my last little bit of notes. Yep, I covered them all. Knowing their voices, knowing the energy needed to put out for the songs that they have recorded, whether even if they did forget the words, but knowing the energy that is needed to sing the songs night after night. One thing that I really appreciate about the recording artists and the albums that they put out was they never put out songs or a sound that they couldn't duplicate over and over and over again. So I find that with recording artists now, when you're recording, you can splice it up. You might go in and just record this little section or that section. But the artists from back in the day, they could sing a song from beginning to end. They could sing that whole album from beginning to end without getting tired. without putting out a sound that they might only could, or a high note that they can only do on a Sunday or on a special day or on a day when they're at their best or they're 100%, because that can't always be duplicated when you're on the road, when you are, wake up and the weather affects you, humidity, if you fly to another altitude. So submitting and knowing to what your voice needs and what you're putting out as far as energy, and can you duplicate that over and over and over again, so that you can have a long and oh, what's the word I'm looking for? It starts with the S. You can have a sustainable career. And we find a lot of singers that get older, or they might even be in their middle ages, and don't have the same voices that they did when they were, and no one really does, but they're not able to sing the same songs. They're not able to have the same range, and they struggle. So then they do end up lowering all of their songs. So those are my 5 S's, and my 5 S's according to Patty and Gladys from last night's verses. But I really talk about, thinking about the voice practically, all of the things that, when I'm working with students and we have a tendency to struggle with, or all the issues in the performance usually relate back to one of these 5 things. Either the breath wasn't hooked up, or, the power or the strength was coming from, wasn't coming from a deep place, or wasn't coming from the abdominals. The space, there isn't enough space for the sound. They, maybe they've lost some soft palate space, or the lift. There's usually one of those things that, or they don't know what they're talking about. That's also a big thing in performance. You could have all the techniques in place, all the skills in place, and then you get up there and your performance falls flat, because you haven't connected to what you're saying, your message, and how you want to communicate that with the instrument that you've been given. So making sure that we are approaching our output, or our singing or our performances with these things in mind, not really limiting what we're doing, but just being very cognizant and intentional about what we're putting out vocally. Okay. So these are my 5 S's. I'll tell you a little bit about the program, and Rod has dropped a link to the Facebook group for the 5S vocal method as I get ready to launch the program. I invite you all to join the group. I'll do some exercises in there. You can ask questions. I'll answer them. I'll have kind of challenges and things to think about vocally during the day. And it's just a way to engage with me. And I want to create this community that supports the vocal development and your growth as a vocal professional. So as you're working through your technique. So hopefully you'll join the group, and the program that I'll be launching soon will be a 5-day boot camp that will be online. All of the lessons and exercises will be self-paced, so you can work through each lesson throughout the 5 days. And each night you'll have a masterclass with me where you'll be able to bounce ideas. You'll be able to talk about how that lesson worked, what didn't work, etc. So this is the first group. This is like the testing group. It also helps me to know what changes I need to make. So I would love for you all to be a part of that, that initial beta group, if you will. And really working to develop a kind of like a vocal exercise program where if you want to lose weight and you want to work at your own pace, you set up your own program, you go through the exercises, and then you pick and choose. These work for me. These really help me to build, my skills or build those muscles. So I'll be including, if you've done the release, also make sure, yes, please, you sign the release. But if you've signed the release, I'll be sending you guys information on that. And then if you join the group, you'll be a part of the community as we build towards that launch. So we are going to, I talked a little long, sorry, but we are going to jump into with our singers. Rod is going to drop in the chat. Okay, we have Bryson Sands coming up first. And as I said in the email, you don't need a track or anything. It's, not very, very strenuous. Just bring me your voice. So, Bryson, tell me where you're from and what kind of singing you do on a regular basis, and tell me what you'll be singing today.
Okay, I'm Bryson Sands. I am from Louisville, Kentucky. I normally sing musical theater songs, that style.
All right. And what will you be
Oh,
singing today?
I will be singing "Make Them Hear You" from Ragtime.
Yay. I love that.
Okay. I usually sing with the track, but I guess I won't do
That's okay.
that. Okay. Go out and tell our story. Let it echo far and wide. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. How justice was our battle land, how justice was denied. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. And say to those who blame us for the way we choose to fight, that sometimes there are battles that are more than black or white. And I would not put down my sword when justice was my right. Make them hear you.
Can you go on to the last set with the key
Okay.
change? Go ahead and go
Yeah.
on with that part.
Go out and tell our story to your daughters and your sons. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. And tell them in our struggle we were not the only ones. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. Your sword could be a sermon or the power of the pen. Teach every child to raise his voice, and then my brothers, then will justice be demanded by 10 million righteous men. Make them hear you. When they hear you, I'll be near you again. They have nothing there.
Yes, yes, give it up. Thank you, Bryson.
Thank
So
you.
that's definitely a great song for you. So one thing I want to start talking about is your space. So space meaning that remember I talked about being able to drop that jaw and lift those cheeks. So when you had a higher note, you instinctively gave more space, and I'd like you to get used to getting more flexibility in your jaw in the lower notes as well. Okay.
Okay.
And that will really help your articulation, or us being able to understand your words clearly, especially doing musical theater on the stage with the microphone and all that other good stuff. So
Mhm.
could you say those words from the beginning for me, please?
Go out, like just say them.
Yes, just speak the words.
Go out and tell our story. Let it echo far and wide. Make them
Okay.
hear you.
All right. So there's a lot of go out and tell our story where your jaw is this way. If you can just kind of wiggle your jaw and say the words. Let me see if you can still say the words. Go out and tell our story. Let them echo far and wide.
Go out and tell our story. Let it echo far and wide.
So what I noticed is when you move the jaw, your voice was pulled down. So that was another reason why I wanted to do that, because if you relax that jaw, it's going to help you to lift the voice up. So okay, so that space needs to go up some more. Go out and tell our story. Let it echo far and wide. You see, it's very flexible. I don't have to talk like this, but I also don't want to talk like this. Okay. So it's just more flexibility in the jaw. Try it again.
Saying it.
Yeah, just saying it. Uh-huh.
Go out and tell our story. Let it echo far and wide.
Just flexibility. You don't have to hold it down. Yeah. Just it's going to move, but if you're holding it too closed, then it's not going to be as flexible as you need.
Okay.
Try it again.
Go out and tell our story. Let it echo far and wide.
Better, better. Now, when you say that one more time, can you think about it being one long vowel and you just happen to do words around it? Go out and tell our story. Let it echo far and wide.
Go out and tell our story. Let it echo far and wide.
So you notice how you gave me go out and let it echo. That is necessary sometimes when you have a word that starts with a vowel, but I would love to know that you can give me what we call legato throughout it. Go out and tell our story. Let it echo far and wide. Okay. Put the energy for the vowel into the legato.
Okay. Go out and tell our story. Let it, oh,
Yes.
let it echo far and wide.
Again.
Go out and tell our story. Let it echo. I keep cutting.
I know, that's all right. And I'm asking you to do something. I don't know how long you've had the song, but these are habits that we get used to. So, changing it in 5 minutes is not easy. Do it again.
Go out and tell our story. Let it echo far and wide.
Let it echo. Let it echo.
Let it echo.
Yes. Yes. Just let it flow. Let it echo far and wide. Say it.
Let it echo far and wide.
Let it echo.
Let it echo far and
Yes.
wide.
Yes. Now, can you sing that for me? Go out and tell our story. Let it echo far and wide. Just let that breath and that line swoop and wave and kind of rush back and forth. Go.
Go out and tell our story. Let it echo far and wide. Oh.
Keep going.
Make them hear you. Make them hear you.
Can you say make?
Make.
Make them hear you.
Make them hear you.
Keep going.
Make them hear you.
Keep going.
And say to those, how justice was our battle and how justice was denied.
Okay, so you're giving me a lot of that space here in the front, and I don't want it to be awkward. I do want to release it more right here between the back teeth. How justice was our what?
How justice was our battle and
how justice was our battle and how justice was denied. So it still flows freely. I don't have to overdo it, but there is a little bit of rigidity back here. I'm trying to get you to loosen up. Okay, try it one more again. How justice
was our battle and how justice was denied.
Yes. Yes. Did you feel it?
Yes.
Did it kind of flow out easier? Like, yeah, we want the voice to kind of just flow out. Okay. So that helps with your legato and that will help with your breath control. Okay. I loved how you opened up and say to those who blame us, and especially when they hear you. Can you go to the end? Do that again for me, please. I might have to move on here. I can't remember how many singers we have, but can you go toward when they hear you? Oh, drop that jaw instead of okay. And if you go this way, it's gonna make it hard for the vocal cords to have the flexibility they need. So you want to stand tall. I know you're looking down at the camera, but you want to almost feel like you're going to get pulled back. You've seen some gospel singers go almost like that, but it is a little bit of that where you're pulling back here so you can get height in the vocal area. Okay. When they hear, can you start there? No.
when they hear
Oh, the
you.
high one is the very end. So we got to get into it. Make them hear you when they hear you. Can you start that? Wait, make them hear you.
Make them hear you when they hear you.
Stop, stop, stop,
Oh.
stop, stop, stop. Instead of when, because you're taking away the space you need when they hear you out. Okay. Yes, when they hear you. Make them hear you. Start there.
Make them hear you when they hear you. Oh, be near you.
Oh, okay.
Again.
So in your again, instead of again, your tongue is really flat in the back. If you can arch it again, again. Can you see my tongue? Again, again, again. Okay, again.
Again.
It's just to separate your tongue from your teeth. Again.
Again.
Better. Keep playing it. Yeah, arch that tongue. The tongue, when you're talking, your tongue is constantly arching and flipping and flapping all over the place. Same thing when you're singing, okay? Yes, you want to keep it relaxed, but if you keep it down again, you're not going to be able to say anything, right? So you want it to be able to arch and go all over the mouth so that you can articulate clearly, okay? Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sierra, yay, she made it. Sierra, next up.
Hello, how are you?
Good, and you? I'm glad you
Doing
able
so
to
well.
make it. I
As
didn't have
am
a
I.
chance to respond, but thank you for being here.
Not a problem. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, so tell us a little bit about yourself, what you sing, and then what you're singing.
Certainly. So I'm Sierra Grace, and I am from Washington, D.C., Northwest Washington, D.C., and I am currently singing, for the most part, gospel, contemporary, and traditional, but in my context, we sing the full gamut of Black sacred music. So today I will sing for you Deep River, as arranged by Harry T. Burley. 30 seconds. Just pitching. Deep river, my home is on Jordan. Deep river, I want to cross over into Conqueror. Deep river, is I want to cross over into campground.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. We were getting that Zoom feedback thing where the sound would dip out and come back
Oh
in. So I know
no.
you saw me leaning in like, oh. I didn't want to miss it. Your breath control, your phrasing, lovely, lovely,
Bless
lovely. Oh, yes. So is this this is like the middle part of your range? Because you sound like, if I remember correctly, yeah, you've got some top.
Yes, ma'am. And I
Yes.
didn't know if we would have time to do the next section. So.
Okay, yeah, give it to me real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, give it to me real quick.
Okay. To the gospel
Yeah, it done cut out again. Good. But I got it all. Okay, so one thing I would say is you know, even with your beautiful breath control, it's a little bit more legato when you come down.
Okay.
So I like to think that when I'm coming down, I'm coming forward, like that stream is gonna come forward. Is peace. So I come in this little arch, this little stream forward. So in your lower register, I saw a little bit of covering right here. Are you doing that to get more warmth in the sound, or is that deliberate?
I think it is a habit, but I also
That's okay.
But I also think it. I think for the E's, for the E vowels, I tend to be closer in my space.
Okay.
As opposed to.
Yeah, it was kind of like deep instead of deep.
Right.
So, do you have a pencil there? And you're not really gonna be able to sing with this, but just with a little space, you feel that right there? Is that a little bit more space than what you were singing with? No, that you're starting high. Deep.
Yes.
Try that.
Deep river.
Yeah, so that it connects.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
because you're giving me deep river. And it's gonna be this. I was over exaggerating, of course, but it's gonna be this big difference in sound as opposed to deep river. So it's closer together in placement. Okay.
Yes.
And I never wanted to feel like hey or anything exaggerated, but just so that you have a little bit more flexibility and freedom as well. So when you're going, my home is instead of my home is my home is yeah, it's kind of gonna do this instead of this. Because that I do, and I know it was backing off, but I think, and that's the only thing about virtual, I think there's more resonance in there. If there were a little bit more, my home is over, Jordan. Yeah.
Yes.
Deep river. So you can arch the tongue more for that so that it's all connected. Yeah. Now try something for me. So I may sound like I'm contradicting what one of the rule of thumbs in singing, but I don't like holding my tongue on my bottom teeth.
It's so hard to stay there.
We don't talk that way. If I would have talked hold my tongue there, this is
very strange.
It's very strange, yes. Now home base, when my tongue is at rest, yes, but when I need to say E, my tongue pulls up a little bit wet. Yeah, the tip of my tongue is still kind of curved over under, but it's not touching my bottom teeth.
Okay.
So yeah, I know that's not in the pedagogy books. Yeah. So try that. Just let the tongue live where it needs to go. Yeah.
Okay.
Try it again.
Oh, okay.
Deep river. Can you use your lips more too?
Mm.
Yeah, kiss the sound.
Deep river,
Keep your cheeks up on her.
my home is on shore.
Can you say my home is old?
My home is old.
Not old.
My home
Oh,
is old. My home is old.
yes.
My
I'm
home
saying
is
it in
old.
my cheeks. Yes. Try that. My home.
My home is on Jordan.
You feel it? Yes. My home is over, Jordan. Yes. And it doesn't get heavy. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if you sing that way over
Mm-hmm.
and over and over again, it's gonna start to get heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to just keep everything lifted where they would just tell us on the shelf, all those other things, but it's really just feeling that placement between here and here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you for being here. Who
Thank
else
you
do
for
we
having me.
have? Let's see. I may still be in good time.
You are. We just had those two today.
Okay. All right. Well, then we do have time for questions then. If somebody else wanted to sing, you're welcome to. Do we have any questions? You can come off mute or you can drop it in the chat. Anything at all. Vocal health.
I definitely have a vocal health question.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'm concerned about how I'm speaking. I know in I'm in a very guest oriented world, a very you know
Yeah.
person oriented field in
Yeah.
ministry and in my part time job as well. And so I know that I have a tendency to lower my speech, and I'm working on my Dr. Krista Sellers battles and my optimal speaking.
She's still getting on me. Yeah, she is still
Alone.
getting on me.
Amen.
Yeah.
I hear
It
you.
it is it is a struggle still,
Mm-hmm.
because this is not where I should be speaking either. And I've noticed, when I am presenting or when I am kind of conscious of it, yes, my pitch level is higher. So being much more conscious of it on a regular basis, always thinking like I'm on, helps me. Always thinking that I'm in that performance mode. It's a lot of work, and I'm still kind of finding that pitch level to where I don't feel like I'm just all the time. So it is definitely something I am still working on, but it is a part of that mental support and that body support, that our daily habits are playing a part into singing. So just being much more conscious of it, paying attention. If you feel, okay, yeah, I've been talking a while, I'm a little tired, I either need to rest or I need to change my pitch or change my speaking.
Mm-hmm.
um Making sure you're breathing as you would when you were singing, when you're talking, especially for long periods of time.
I'm
um
in radio, so that's that's challenging. But any warm ups you could suggest for that would be awesome.
So, well, why is it a little bit more challenging to equate your radio voice with your singing voice?
I think I'm doing a lot more extemporaneous speaking, and so just having to, um, I guess, moderate my phrasing when it's not a scripted phrase, if that makes sense.
Yes, but you're thinking about what you want to say before you say it, yeah?
Yes, yes.
We think in phrases. We
There we
still
go.
think in phrases. We
Mm-hmm.
think about how we want that message to be communicated.
Mm-hmm.
We take our time. We'll breathe through our nose. You've probably seen me doing that a couple of times while I'm talking here. If we take time to pace ourselves and breathe through your nose and things like that, I think you can spend more time or have more thought beforehand and shape it that way. The exercises would be the same. it really, for me, it really does translate. What am I saying? How do I want to say it? If it's not scripted, I'm still thinking ahead, and I'm thinking about when is a good place to pause, take a breath, when do I need to slow down, etc. So slowing down is still a big one for me. So yeah, still working on that. But yeah, I would use the same exercises. The program I'm developing is for speakers as well. So the things I'm doing would have some pitchless exercise, but it's still lip trills, lip buzzes, the things that we've been doing, but just taking the singing out of it mostly.
Thank you.
Do you record yourself speaking these things?
I do.
Do you listen to yourself?
I do.
Good.
I do. Yeah.
Good. So those are the things that you're picking up on, is that pitch level,
Mm-hmm.
and then your pacing.
Yes, and just running out of breath and stuff like that. But it's a mental thing. I'm hearing from you. And so we will bear that in mind.
Yeah. I've never really done radio. I've done a few interviews, but when I find myself getting like that, I would think like a singer.
Mm-hmm.
I'd kick into that mode, and I'd, breathe through my nose. I'd ground my breath more. Maybe how you're sitting, or if you're leaning into the microphone like this, that's gonna cause tension there.
Mm-hmm.
So you already have that training, you already have that alignment. Use it at all times. You don't see ballet dancers standing. I mean, they'll be sitting and standing as they've been trained to. So
mm-hmm.
same thing with your voice. I see a question in the chat. Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
How can I take care of my vocals, preaching and singing? And having been out of professional singing, how can I begin to revive my voice? All right. But I'm in the hospital. Okay. All right. I'm sorry to hear about your son, first of all, and we'll be praying, but and that's mine banging on the door. Okay. So in professional singing, it would just be like any other professional athlete who they have their daily set of drills and their daily set of exercises. And especially when they're going through rehabilitation, they have to be very disciplined to build those muscles up and spend time with that on a daily basis. So and it doesn't really come from talking. It doesn't come from playing the game. It comes from doing the shooting drills, doing the running drills, the throwing drills. I'm not an athlete, but all those drills, I am an athlete. I'm a vocal athlete. But all those drills, and being able to apply that muscle memory in the moment, when you do have to preach and when you do have to sing in front of people. Now with preaching, I would say, and when you have that energy and when you're in the moment, you might apply a different pressure. But I don't know, when you're preparing your sermons, how much time you spend speaking through it and recording yourself speaking through it, so you can pay attention to where you're breathing, how often you need to breathe, in what manner you need to breathe. So that same thing, if you're also doing singing, I would equate it to the breaths that you would take to sing on, the placement that you would use to sing on, so that you can sustain, repeated use of the voice over and over again, having to project it even in the microphone. So I hope that does. Oh, thanks, Sierra. I hope that does help with vocals. And like I said, the program that I'll be launching will have exercises and things for that. So I definitely encourage you to join the community. And preachers are definitely a demographic or a group of vocal professionals that I really want to be able to cater to, so that the voice is being preserved. But it does start with the mental approach and how you're approaching using your voice when you are going to preach as opposed to singing.